Recording in progress.
Here we go. Call this Planning Commission meeting for the City of Chaska to order Wednesday, January 14th. It's about 7 o'clock right now. Do a roll call.
Yep. Commissioner Austin?
Here.
Boswa?
Here.
Campbell?
Here.
Purdy? Brosted? Saylor?
Here.
And Chairperson
I
Urbanski.
can barely hear you.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda, or looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
First and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Didn't think so. Moving on to visitor presentation. So this would be anything that's not currently on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody that has something to talk about that's not on the agenda? No? Anybody online? No? All right, we'll move from there into number 5 here, approve the previous meeting minutes from the December 10th meeting. Would somebody like to make that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 10th meeting minutes.
Second.
First and seconded to approve the December 10th meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Which moves us to our consent agenda items, which there are none tonight. Which brings us to our action items, specifically our first one, public hearing, recommended approval of the preliminary site and building plan and rezoning for 4200 Peavey Road, Shaw Construction, PC 2025-21. We have some ghosts in the building? That seems better.
Maybe. We'll try it.
Perfect.
If it doesn't work, I'll just start yelling. How about that?
That's totally expected.
I was told last night that during my presentation, I need to start using my mom voice more often when I'm presenting, so maybe that's what I'm going to start doing. Okay, this evening we have a request that includes both a preliminary site and building plan approval as well as a zoning ordinance amendment. The concept plan came before you in the latter part of last year, but tonight we have the applicant back before you looking at 4200 Peavey Road. So tonight, I know the commission has heard this speech, but we're going to give it just for the benefit of those in the audience this evening. We are in the second step of Chaska's 3-step process. So previously, the concept plan included some high-level plans. We use those plans to identify issues for resolution kind of as we move through that process. Tonight, we're in the second step. So staff did a more technical review of more detailed plans. Coming out of that concept plan review, we also start to see some resolution to those issues that were identified in that first step. And then, should the applicant decide to move forward, we will see that final review before moving into the permitting section of our process. So just a quick overview of the proposal. The request is for a new office warehouse building with outdoor storage in the rear. The applicant is Shaw Construction, and there is 2 tenants of the 6 that are proposed within the building. They're both here this evening and represented. That is Southwest Rental and Sales, and they're relocating from another site within Chaska. And then the second tenant is Crimson and Copper Plumbing, and they're relocating from another community. The site is currently zoned PID 8. It's within kind of this northeast quadrant of our city, right in the corner of that Chaska-Chanhassen border. The site from 1986 to 2018, the site was zoned PID 2. After 2018, it was rezoned to PID 8. That rezoning didn't change any of those PID 2 standards, which did prohibit outdoor storage for properties along Highway 41, but really that rezoning was to acknowledge residential that was constructed within the city of Chanhassen, but a majority of those standards remained the same. In 2005, the site was granted final site and building plan approval as well as final plat for Chaska Business Lofts. That proposal was going to allow 3 buildings between 6,000 and 8,000 square feet for a total of 15 tenants across those 3 buildings. The approvals included requirements for enhanced screening along Highway 41. It also included a cross-access easement that does exist on the property today. I'll talk a little bit more about that later this evening. But that was to allow this site circulation and access between the site and the property to the south. And then the third kind of requirement coming out of that proposal was again reiterating that no outdoor storage on the property. So despite this approval happening 20 years ago now, the buildings were not constructed and the property has remained vacant. So the 2.74 acre site, as I mentioned, is currently vacant. It does slope downward from a high point that exists along the northern property line, so it's sloping down in all directions from there. There is a type 1 wetland that exists on that western property line along Highway 41. There's also the cross-access easement that is existing from that previous approval. And there are also 14 existing trees of a variety of different species, primarily on the eastern side of the property. So just a quick recap of the concept plan. There were 2 buildings that were part of that concept plan. So the first was kind of the phase 1, or that initial building that we were reviewing in more detail. It was 18,000 total square feet. The building was 28 feet tall and primarily brick, precast, and aggregate panels on those 4 facades. That second building was shown in footprint and was indicated that it would be 9,000 square feet, and there would be some additional parking that would happen as part of that second phase. But again, it was noted that if that was going to be at some point in the future. The proposal also included just under 18,000 square feet of outdoor storage. It was going to be enclosed by an 8-foot fence, primarily of wood, and then brick corner accents. Signage shown, there was 1 monument sign and then 6 wall tenant signs on the front, kind of on that facade facing Highway 41. Parking was, again, a mix of constructed stalls, so stalls shown on the west side of the building along Highway 41, and then a mix of proof of parking stalls. So just a quick recap of their meeting summary. In August, they held a neighborhood meeting, but no one attended that meeting. Then the request came before you in October. The applicant and the future tenants were available. They answered some of your questions as it related to timing, kind of over the overall construction, as well as the future development of that future building. And then they also answered some of your questions about site security and storage, as well as just overall business operations. Staff did ask you to provide some feedback on that outdoor storage area just to help us kind of determine where you are at before it moved into that next phase. Generally, you expressed support of that area, noting that it would be located behind the building, so it would be screened by Highway 41. They were also showing some additional landscaping and fencing, which you felt would provide adequate screening. You felt strongly that the stored material should be limited to the height of that fence. And then finally, you provided some potential amendment language for staff to consider should it move forward. You ultimately voted to approve the concept plan, and then it went to the council later in October, and they really echoed a lot of your sentiments and comments, and they approved it. So moving out of concept plan and into the current plan, one of the bigger changes that you'll see is that second future building has been removed from the plan. So the proposed building has been reconfigured slightly. It was essentially made a little bit larger and then elongated. And that really helped tighten up the site in order to meet those parking lot setbacks from the north and the south property line. So the building increased from 18,000 square feet up to 22,400 square feet. That footprint hangs out still at about 16,000 square feet with a mezzanine level. The building height, materials, and signage are consistent with what you saw at the concept level with just some additional, again, details as it relates to the facade materials. The outdoor storage area also shrunk about 1,000 square feet from when you saw it. So it was about 11,700 square feet previously. It's come down to just over 10,600 square feet. Fence height is consistent at that 8 feet. Materials are consistent with what you previously saw. So primarily wood with those metal gates mechanism, and then again, those corner brick accents to provide some just diversity in materials along that facade. And then again, the applicant, has reiterated that the materials and the equipment stored within that would not exceed the height of that 8-foot fence. Moving into some of the other site improvements, access continues to be from Peavey Road with no access onto Highway 41. The amount of parking on site, if you remember concept plan, they were slightly deficient in what they were showing to now accommodate what's required as well as that enlarged building. They're showing 76 total stalls. 24 of them would be constructed, part of that parking lot on the west side of the building, and then the remainder are shown in proof of parking. Some of those stalls are located within that outdoor storage area, and then the remainder of those proof of parking are shown in this red shaded area, which would be an expanded parking lot should it be needed in the future. The proposal does include, just over 300 square feet of wetland fill to accommodate that parking lot. And then there was an additional monument sign added to the Peavey Road entrance. Landscaping, 13 of the 14, or the site's 14 trees would be removed, but there would be additional landscaping proposed. So they're showing landscaping on the west side of that parking lot, a variety of evergreens, oaks, and crabapples. And then they're showing roughly 50 North Pole arborvitaes, both along those north and southern property lines, provide additional screening of that outdoor storage area. And then screening of that outdoor storage area from Peavey Road would be with, or landscaping to provide screening rather, would be made up of elms, birch, and firs as currently proposed. Water and sewer would be extended from Peavey Road, so they are available to the site and can be extended. And then stormwater throughout the site would be collected and then directed to the stormwater basin that wraps around what's that proof of parking area. Moving into staff's analysis, the industrial use of the building and the overall site is consistent with the 2040 comp plan guidance for industrial, and generally the building use is consistent with what's allowed in the PID 8 district. However, as previously noted, there is an amendment that's required to that district to allow the outdoor storage, because again, not currently allowed for those properties along Highway 41, and this proposal includes one. Staff is supportive of that amendment to allow the limited well-screened outdoor storage on the area, or on the site rather, for a few reasons. Primarily, the property is guided and zoned for industrial, which is where you typically see outdoor storage areas. But that outdoor storage area would be located behind the building, and they're proposing adequate screening, really to screen that outdoor storage area from Highway 41 to preserve kind of that high quality, high visual standard along that corridor. Additionally, that stored materials and equipment wouldn't exceed that 8-foot fence, and there's additional screening of the outdoor storage area from Peavey as well, both by the 13-foot grade change from the street level up to that storage area, as well as that additional landscaping. So continuing on, as you may recall from the concept plan review, the plat of Chaska Business Lofts had divided that site up to allow for those individual ownership, and then that larger lot to allow for those commonly shared amenities like the parking lot. And so staff had identified that it would either have to be combined at the county or they'd have to go through a platting process. The property owner has since combined the lot into a contiguous lot, so that has been resolved. But coming out of that, there are existing drainage and utility easements that kind of follow that commonly owned, or that what was to be that commonly owned lot. So those drainage and utility easements would have to be vacated, and then a new standard city easement would have to be established around the perimeter of the lot. The applicant has indicated that they plan to couple that with their final review. And then finally, that cross-access easement coming out of Chaska Business Lofts also still exists. That remains. And the property owners indicated that they're working with that southern property owner to dissolve that easement. So we would continue to monitor that before issuing a building or site permit. Moving into building analysis, the building materials continue to be consistent with what our code would allow and with what was previously approved with the concept plan, and it does meet setback requirements as shown in the chart and in your report. For access and parking requirements, again, meeting what is allowed for the site by the PID district for access, and then the proposed amount of parking, so that 76 stalls in totality would meet what our code would require, but by constructing 24 of them, they would be able to accommodate what would be their current anticipated demand without having to construct excess parking, but it would still allow us to review and ensure that that parking lot meets our standard requirements should it need to be constructed in the future. So if you recall out of concept plan, there was a large encroachment into the northern and the southern parking lot setbacks. Those have generally been resolved, but for a minor 1-foot encroachment just along a sliver of that southern parking lot. So included in your packet this evening and in your resolution, there is just a condition of approval to adjust that slightly in order to meet that requirement. And then finally, the staff's analysis of landscaping. Again, all but one tree would be removed from the site, but their proposed landscaping plan does exceed the previously established screening standards along Highway 41. While the plan doesn't currently meet our ordinance requirements for overstory trees, if they swap out those 4 discovery elms to another species, then the plan would meet our requirements. And the reason for that is our landscaping ordinance excludes elms of any species from being counted as an overstory tree. So just by swapping that, we're meeting that requirement. So the four main things that we're going to be looking at and continuing to monitor as the project moves forward, again, that easement vacation and dedication, just that slight adjustment to the parking setback, resolution on that cross-access easement, and then the landscaping requirements. So again, just kind of swapping out those species or however they choose to resolve that, but to meet that overstory tree requirement. So with that, looking for two motions this evening, and then this would move to the council at their next meeting on January 26th. So I'll turn it back to you if you have any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff at this point? Then let's open the public hearing at 7:20. We have representatives here of the project, so if we have questions for the developer, the builder, owner, they're here as well. I've got a couple questions. I'm not sure who wants to answer.
Fire away.
Can I have you step up here and state your name and your address, please?
I'm Mike Wickenhauser, Crimson Copper Plumbing.
Thanks, Mike. Just curious on you went from two buildings to one building or one future building. Any reason for that?
It just made more sense with the shape of the building, working with the lot that we had.
Good.
I think we had to shrink it in a little bit to meet some requirements along the sides. So it made more sense at that point to then go a little longer. Then we can get the working space that we need for our businesses. And then that pushed it farther back towards the planned second building.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of took that off the table.
Okay.
So we just decided to commit to the one and go that route.
And then the fence there, what kind of material are you thinking on the fence?
I believe part of the fence is gonna be, it's gonna match the building precast, and that'll be at kind of the corners and visual points. And then the main runs of the fence are gonna be wood fence painted to match the building.
All right. Other questions? No?
Just, can you go over with the parking lot in the back, or the storage in the back, safety and security concerns that you've looked at, how it's gonna be addressed? Just kind of what your thoughts are there.
Yep, we're gonna have, so it'll be closed off after business hours. It'll be open during business hours, and then that storage area is gonna be closed off, locked up. We're gonna have site lighting, so that area will be lit up.
Like what kind, I just, we don't want it lit up like, Mystic Lake, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna be an airport. They're kind of ground-facing lights that light up the storage area. And that's for us too. We're gonna be getting started before the sun comes out and working after it goes down sometimes.
All right.
Anyone else? No? Any questions from our guest here or online? We will close the public hearing then at 7:23 p.m. Sorry for taking so much time there. I would say, first off, thank you for, taking the feedback that you got from both us and council as you continue to move this project forward. You're making it pretty easy to slide it through. Probably not as easy with staff on a day-to-day basis, but from our perspectives, it's very nice. I guess I'd look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve to the city council the preliminary plans and the zoning amendment to allow the outdoor storage at Peavey Business Center at 4200 Peavey Road, subject to the following listed 11 conditions.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we got a second motion on this one as well.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the zoning ordinance amendment to the planned industrial district PID 8 based on the draft ordinance.
Perfect. Anyone want to second that one?
Second.
Second on it? Perfect. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing nothing, motion passes. Thank you, guys. Which brings us to our second action item, which is the recommended approval of the concept plan on the Holasek property, 4245 Big Woods Boulevard, Pulte Homes, PC number 2025-22.
Thank you, Chair and Planning Commission members. Just give me a second while I pull this presentation up. This one. By that you can see that in front of you before I start.
Got it.
Thank you. All right, so we have a concept plan application in front of us this evening for the Holasek property that has the address of 4245 Big Woods Boulevard, being proposed by Pulte Homes. The property is highlighted in blue in this attached aerial exhibit. The property is considered to be in our southwest area of the city. Specifically, it is in the southeast corner of County Road 44 or Big Woods Boulevard and Highway 212. It's just south of County Road 44 and adjacent to a few residential developments out there, which I'll get into the adjacencies a little bit later. We are at the first step in our three-step review process. So this is the introduction to the project, a general overview of the project itself, and starting to identify some issues or concerns or questions to be addressed in their more technical analysis in the second preliminary step. The property, again, is shown here. It will only encompass about 3/4 of the southern portion of the property in question. The remaining 12 acres to the north side will be retained by the Holasek family. Some of the adjacent users out here, you have Rivertown Heights, which is a detached single-family development immediately east. You have the future Southwest Community Park immediately east as well. That's a 52-acre area. You have a school-owned property immediately east as well, roughly 6 acres in size. And then immediately south of the site in question is a recent development that was approved called High Point Vistas, which is a detached single-family residential housing subdivision as well. The applicant did conduct a neighborhood meeting last year on November 24th. They did not have any attendees to that meeting, so there were no comments or concerns that were raised at that time. Other approvals and background. So in 2017 is when the right-of-way for the future Savannah Way extension, the area that has been planned for the Southwest Community Park, and then the future inclusion of a school, elementary school, all of those properties were purchased back in 2017 from the Holasek family. The city purchased the right-of-way, shown in orange, and the community park, shown in green. The school purchased the property for their future elementary school, shown in purple on this exhibit. High Point Vistas that I mentioned earlier came through and it was approved for their pre-plat back in June of 2024. This will be 162 lots at its full build-out. They just got final plat for their first phase for 56 lots on the south side of the development back in March of 2025. I also want to point out the city is currently going through the design process for the Southwest Community Park, and that has been ongoing for several months over the past year, and is currently being planned and designed with our design team. There is a tentative schedule as to how soon the project will start, with hopes of doing site work as soon as this year in the fall, in hopes of construction to start on the actual park in 2027. The property in question is roughly 54 acres total. And as I mentioned before, the development is really segmented to that 3/4 of the south side of the site. So 41.5 acres are proposed for this development this evening. The remaining 12.8 acres on the north side of the 54-acre property will be retained by the Holasek family. The current use of this property is primarily agricultural, so it has been farmed over the years. There is also a homestead and several outbuildings that exist that will be on that 12-acre retained parcel. 2 wetlands have been delineated on site. One is outside of the development boundaries, and then there is one within the development boundaries, more towards the southwest portion of the property. Access to this parcel would come off of the future extension of Savannah Way. Currently, Savannah Way stubs off at where the roundabout on Big Woods Boulevard or County Road 44 sits today. So that will extend south and follow the path of that established right-of-way that is there today. Utilities are also available, and they stub off at Founder's Path, so at the the western edge of the Rivertown Heights development. So the request this evening, again, is for concept plan approval, which would entail a 207-lot residential subdivision, which would break down to a mix of housing within this subdivision. 98 of those units would be for townhomes. 63 of the lots would be for detached single family, and then 46 of the lots would be twin homes. All of these lots or units will be owner occupied and all under their own HOA. The townhomes and the twin homes will have HOA maintenance for snow and mowing, and then HOA maintenance would be or ownership and maintenance would be for all common areas in the development. So the 3 different housing products are shown on this slide here. I know Pulte will also be going over some of the details of their products too, and kind of their own separate small presentation they'd like to give to you. But again, all of these will be owner occupied, so they have provided some general price points for all of the units, ranging from the high 300s for the townhome units to the mid to high 400,000s for the twin home lots and the detached single family. All of these will be slab on grade units and range in square footage from 1,500 square feet all the way up to 2,500 square feet. All of the twin homes will be single level units, and then the townhomes and the detached single family will be 2-story units. In terms of zoning and the guidance in our comprehensive plan, the property is currently zoned open, which is essentially a holding zoning district until it gets developed or redeveloped. The comprehensive plan guides the site to be mixed residential and just generally speaking, that pertains to a mix of uses within there and a mix of density as well. So it allows for a density range anywhere from 3 up to 40 dwelling units per net acre. This project in particular is proposing generally a 5 unit per net acre density. Another piece that I want to point out from our comprehensive plan is within our housing chapter of the comp plan, chapter 5, there is a section on housing diversity and promoting that. We have a list of policies that reinforce that objective, and one that pertains to townhomes, policy number 9, which speaks to encouraging and limiting the amount of townhomes to approximately 75 units per townhome product line. This limitation has helped to provide the community with a variety of housing styles and prices, and make the associations less vulnerable to downturns in any one product line due to changes in the buying pattern of the general public. So how we've have administered this before is trying to vary the look of the townhome, so you're providing variety in the overall look of them. I think the policy really stems from ensuring that you're not getting vast arrays of the same townhome, either quads or kind of those larger building expanses within one development, to avoid some of the concerns that are raised in this policy. And I'll speak to this a little bit later in things to work on. This is the concept plan shown on this slide here. So again, the overall site or development area is 41.5 total acres, and the 207 units are spread across those 41.5 acres. The townhomes will be oriented on the north side of the development area. The detached single family will be oriented within the middle, and then the twin homes will be oriented towards the south portion of the property. 4 access points are proposed on the future extension of Savannah Way, so that'll be the primary entrance points into the development. 1 access point will line up with Founder's Path, which is immediately east, and provide access to the townhome units. There will be an internal spine that'll connect all 3 areas or 3 product types within the development internally. And then you have 3 additional access points, 2 that will serve the detached single family area, and then another access point to the south that will serve the twin home area. But again, everything will be internally connected with the local street system. The applicant has stated that they anticipate 2 phases of this development, and that is kind of tentative at this point, but that's what they anticipate now. They did highlight a first phase, which is outlined in red on this exhibit, and I apologize if that's hard to see on the screen there. But effectively, it would encompass kind of the north and eastern side of the development area, which would include all 3 product lines within that first phase. And then the second phase would essentially be the remaining area outside of phase 1. And as I mentioned before, the area to the north of the proposed development will be retained by the Holasek family. There is a very conceptual layout shown in this concept plan, but I do want to iterate that the uses and everything proposed within this area will have to go through its own separate review process, come back for concept, and go through our full 3 steps. In terms of access and right-of-way, again, as I mentioned, there are 4 access points into this development. An important thing, as I mentioned before, is the Southwest Community Park is currently being planned at this time as well. And there has been some initial layouts explored that anticipate 3 access points into the Southwest Community Park and school property east of this project site. Those are still continuing to be refined and coordinated and kind of worked through the design process. But one thing that we have been transparent on both sides of the road here with the applicant and with ourselves developing the community park is that the access points on Savannah Way do need to align, and will continue to be coordinated to ensure that those alignments can occur. We do have spacing requirements along collector roads that we'll have to keep in mind. So that will be a part of that coordination effort as well. Right-of-way, since the roads within the development are all proposed to be public, it requires 60-foot right-of-way widths on those public roadways, and the concept plan is anticipating those roadway widths. The right-of-way for Savannah Way, again, has already been established with the 2017 acquisition and purchase. In the timing and construction of Savannah Way will also need to be coordinated now that we have an active development plan in front of us, and the Southwest Community Park is actively being designed as well. So timing and construction and all of the details that come with that will continue to be coordinated with the developer and with the other future users and High Point Vista's development to the south to construct that extension. For utilities and stormwater, as I mentioned before, utilities stub off at Founder's Path to the east, so those will be extended into the development from there. It will also, based on their layout, extend down Savannah Way. Water will extend for the full extent of Savannah Way. That will also service High Point Vistas to the south. One piece that we'll need to ensure happens in the preliminary and final is securing a water main crossing easement up to the Highway 212 right-of-way. This is to bring water services across Highway 212 to be able to serve the future development for Business Park on the west side of Highway 212. For stormwater, there are 4 total stormwater ponds proposed within this concept plan. They'll have to meet city and county standards for stormwater design. One piece we'll be requesting is ensuring that access points into these stormwater areas are delineated within outlots and not private property. So one thing they'll need to show on their preliminary and final plans. And lastly, the stormwater design also needs to account for the 12-acre property that's retained by the Holasek family. So it all needs to be kind of speaking the same language and accounted for in the stormwater management plan in the preliminary submittal. Park dedication and common open space. So this area of the city within this parcel does not have a public park defined within it, of course, due to the plan for a Southwest Community Park immediately east. So because there's no public park associated with this parcel, Park dedication fees will be required to be paid. The Southwest Community Park, again, is currently being planned, and there are a whole number of amenities and uses proposed within that park that have to do with fields and disc golf, passive areas, open field play, et cetera. Those items continue to be refined as the city works through that design process. This property with the town houses and the twin homes, there is a requirement to provide common open space in the event that those types of units are in a development. Our ordinance requires 1,000 square feet per unit for both townhomes and twin homes. Our ordinance also requires that the common open space be used for amenity or recreational purposes appropriate to the scale, type of development, and also improved for its intended use. So not necessarily like open field areas, that they need to have some level of use in that space. The applicant has provided several areas for common open space, and at this time it's very high level in terms of what they're doing with it, but they did propose that these areas would be for passive areas with private trails and landscaping. It'll be important as they move into preliminary how they are planning to program these spaces that do meet the full extent of the ordinance for common open space. These spaces should also be appropriate to the units that they're servicing, and I think it's also appropriate to understand kind of how it can either enhance or add to beyond what the Southwest Community Park is going to be able to achieve. They have given some provisions and values of the open space areas that are proposed, and a few of the areas do exceed the requirement. They're also showing open space for the detached single-family area, which doesn't require common open space. From a high-level standpoint, just based on the square footage provisions, they do exceed our ordinance requirements, but I think it'll be important as we go into preliminary and understand the details of how these areas are programmed to see how they meet the intent and requirements of the ordinance. Screening and landscaping is kind of a big discussion item for this development, since this development abuts two major roadways, one being Highway 212 and the other being Savannah Way. We do have a landscape requirement for residential subdivisions to have boulevard trees along every public street for every 50 feet, and that's the area between the street edge and the sidewalk edge. So they'll need to show that in their landscape plans for preliminary and final. They have also provided some concepts for the edges of the development adjacent to Highway 212 and for Savannah Way. The cross sections that are shown on this slide are the different product lines and their abutments to Highway 212. They do intend to incorporate a berm on the west edge of the property. They're showing a 5-foot berm along the edge of Highway 212 for all units for the townhomes, detached single family, and the twin homes to the south. One piece that's really important with kind of as an add-on for the screening needs is ensuring that they're able to mitigate the noise coming from Highway 212. So they will be required to conduct a noise analysis before they submit for preliminary, so we can understand the noise generated from the highway and how their screening mechanisms put in place, whether that's berming, landscaping, or additional screening, helps get them to the state noise standards to be able to meet those standards. So we'll know more as details come out of that noise analysis to see or understand what those mitigation necessities will be. These are cross-sections along Savannah Way, and they're showing a 3-foot berm through the extent of that. This is fairly consistent with what we saw to the south in High Point Vistas and also to the north within the Harvest and Harvest West neighborhoods. So it'll be important for them to kind of show that consistent application through their development that matches up with specifically High Point Vistas, since there's another berm to tie in there. This slide is for the house designs and anti-monotony. So the city does have an anti-monotony ordinance, section 1528290. And this is specific to detached single-family homes. There's a list of regulations in terms of design needs for detached single-family. The applicant has stated that they can meet the majority of these standards that are listed within them. So this pertains to window trim requirements, garage protrusion and width regulations, et cetera. They do request to seek more analysis on a couple of the standards that are laid out within that ordinance, one pertaining to porch depth requirements, where our ordinance requires 6 feet minimum of depth, and they would like to propose a 5-foot depth for their detached single-family unit. And then secondly, there is a requirement for LP Smart Site on front elevations. The applicant is proposing more analysis to look at using vinyl with cultured stone, and then 2 different siding options on the front elevation. So that would be 2 of the following, either lap, shakes, board and batten. So this is really a discussion item that I'm hoping for you guys to speak through this evening to discuss the reasonableness of analyzing different alternatives for these standards listed in anti-monotony specifically for their detached single-family product. And just to give you a little bit of precedence, we do have some precedence of this in another approved development, Del Webb, which was also a Pulte development. They asked for the same alternative for the LP Smart Site on front elevations, and proposed to do the vinyl with stone and 2 different siding options on the front. So that was effectively adopted into the zoning for that development as an acceptable alternative to the LP Smart Side. So we do have at least some precedents to show that we've looked at it differently in a different development. I think the stance that the city has on these alternatives is ensuring that the quality is still maintained or it's enhanced with these alternatives that are being explored. So I think the alternative for the LP Smart Side, we still felt like the quality was being enhanced because there was still minimum requirements or articulation requested, and ultimately constructed into the development with the use of stone and then 2 different siding applications on the front side. Pulte does have a brief presentation that they're going to give following mine, just to go into a little bit more of their request on this piece of it. But this will be kind of the more, or one of the things that we'll want your discussion on. To wrap up, so just to call out the things to work on for their preliminary submittal, adherence with Chapter 5, Policy 9 regarding housing diversity in townhomes, specifically working towards providing varied exterior designs and/or providing varied layouts that create a broad range of price points for the townhomes is kind of what we're requesting to meet this policy. One way we've seen this done in areas that have more than 75 units of townhomes is Springs at McKnight Lake. And this is the development that's just south of Costco. You'll see varied exterior designs through that development. So that was one way they decided to approach this policy, and would be an acceptable avenue for Pulte to explore as well with their townhomes. Continued coordination to ensure access alignment along Savannah Way for both this development and with the Southwest Community Park and school sites. Also, built into that is ensuring that we can identify some safe pedestrian crossings across Savannah Way to allow this development to safely connect into the Southwest Community Park as well as the school site, because we know there's going to be families, there's going to be children that are going to want to access the park and the school sites in the future. So making sure we start to discuss those safe routes into the park and school. Working on their common open space programming, so getting details on what's included in those common open space areas and adhering to the city's requirements on that. Working on screening, landscaping, berming along Highway 212 and Savannah Way. Conducting a noise analysis, and then also from that analysis, understand what the mitigation efforts need to be to meet state noise standards. And then working on anti-monotony requirements and the analysis for detached single-family units, and working on their stormwater plan to meet standards, as well as including any details that city engineering needs, specifically including the design and capacity of the 12-acre property north of this development. And then another detail that's important to understand and start discussing is their plans for construction traffic and how that's going to be accessed into the site, and how that's going to be coordinated with the ongoing construction of Savannah Way, if those two pieces are going to be happening at the same time. So in conclusion, we are asking you to make a motion this evening to recommend approval of the concept plan for the Holasek property, and then based on the conditions that are listed in the staff report, if this moves forward this evening, the city council that this would go to is Monday, January 26th. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, like I said, Haley from Pulte does have a brief presentation she'd like to give to you.
Maybe we should get Kaylee's presentation before we go on to
I
questions.
think that's a good idea.
Yep.
That might answer some of the questions already, so.
Yeah. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. As Liz pulls it up, Haley Daly Severs, Pulte Homes. Our address is 1650 West 82nd Street, Suite 300, Bloomington, Minnesota. As Liz mentioned, I have a brief presentation just to kind of go over our product so you guys can also see what it looks like, as well as discuss some of those flexibilities we'd like more feedback on. Liz, yeah, go to the next one. Just a brief history of who Pulte is. We started in 1950. We're a national home builder throughout the United States. We build throughout the Twin Cities, and that's a current example of all the communities that we're building in throughout the Twin Cities. And we do build under two brands in Minnesota, Pulte Homes and Del Webb. This community would be a Pulte home community, and as you might be familiar with, Edelwood was also a Del Webb, but done by Pulte as well. To start, so when looking at this site, we wanted to be really intentional with our design of it. We understand that there's a lot of growth happening in this area. We also know that there's been a demand and a need for different types of housing, which is what led us to choose to propose townhomes, twin homes, and single-family detached homes. We're trying to propose homes that meet folks at whatever stage of life that they're in at that time. And then just a side note, since density always comes up, we are meeting the density requirements as outlined in the comprehensive plan. Next, this is an example of a townhome we currently have built. These homes range around 1,800 square feet to just above 2,000 square feet. They're 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2 stories. They typically appeal to your first-time home buyers or young families that are looking for this. And the next slide shows a few different examples of the homes. We typically build them in 4 or 6 unit packs. And then I also did include examples of the inside of some of our townhomes. They're very spacious, tall ceilings, high quality, nice materials as well. Next, we're proposing twin homes. We actually haven't built these yet in the Minnesota market, but we're excited to bring them in. They're typically geared towards more folks that are looking to downsize, slab on grade, single level living, people that want to stay in the community but are looking for a little bit smaller house, and folks that like the snow and mow maintenance so they don't have to go out there and blow their driveway in the middle of winter. Next, these are our detached single-family homes. They range in square footage from 1,800 square feet to just above 2,500 square feet. These are 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 2.5 baths, 2 stories. And we find that families typically move into these type of homes. And then just to talk about the flexibilities, as Liz mentioned, we can meet most of the requirements for the anti-monotony and design requirements. We are requesting a reduction in the porch depth from 6 feet to 5 feet, and that actually has to deal more with the window clearance and above the porch area. In order to provide that living space, you need a window to have a certain size and clearance requirements, and as that porch gets deeper, it actually affects our ability to meet those window clearance requirements, which is one reason why we're proposing a reduction in the 5 foot. We've built these homes in other communities with the 5 foot porch depth, and we find that folks still are able to have chairs and a little sitting area, and it's still usable space for them, while also still looking good for the community and having that curb appeal. And the second variance or flexibility we would request is the LP on the front side. As Liz mentioned, we're proposing we'd still do 2 different types of LP or siding on the front of it with stone, so you're still meeting that architecture element designs and creating something unique to look at, but just by removing the LP, it helps achieve costs that are more attainable for this type of buyer. And then the next slide shows additional renderings and photos of these homes. And I could stop here to talk about that more, or I just have a summary for it. Again, as mentioned, 207 new units and homes, really trying to be intentional with our design, knowing that there's a lot of growth in this area, as well as trying to meet the different home buyers that we've heard have a need for this type of housing, especially in this part of the town. And of course, all of our homes are extremely high quality, aesthetically pleasing, and these would be a range of price points as well that differ from the surrounding area.
Questions for the applicant or for staff?
Just a safety concern, Savannah Way. It's getting to be a pretty busy road going through the Harvest and all the way up Creek Road and things like that. How are you gonna evaluate? I'm just worried about the alignment of the park, which is a great spot to be. The school right there. There's gonna be a lot of pedestrian traffic crossing over Savannah Way. It's gonna be very important to either have, underpasses or roundabout to slow that traffic down. Savannah Way gets kind of crazy. I mean, because people want to go to the parks.
Sure.
That's all. That's my only concern.
Will that be up to the city to decide about roundabouts?
So this was for everybody, because I know you guys are both talking about it. You know, if we're gonna evaluate the volume of 212, the noise volume, maybe we could evaluate the speed in Savannah Way
It's a legitimate concern.
impact, safety concern. That's all, because there's
Sure.
that new school there in the park, fantastic. I mean, what a great development for, you know, the people that want to move out here.
And you're gearing some of this towards younger families also, so.
Correct. And Chair and Commissioners, as far as the or the Savannah Way design, I'd have to lean on staff as well. I know we'd be in coordination and talking, but ultimately it's my understanding the city will be designing it. But I know there's lots of ways to mitigate, such as crosswalks, and we're open to all of those ideas and working with staff on figuring that out at the next stage if we get to that point.
I think it's a beautiful development. I only have two concerns. 212 noise mitigation. 5 feet berm, I don't think is gonna cut it. I know it's gonna be up to the state to decide, but I mean, you see how much traffic and trucks and
It's
everything goes by.
growing more and more
That's
every
probably
day,
gonna
yeah.
be an issue. And my second point, the porch size. You're asking for an exception from 6 feet to 5 feet. At Del Webb, did we do the same thing? Did we approve 5 feet for there?
Chair and Commissioners, I believe that exception was not granted for that, but I would look to staff as well. I think
Okay, so we have made exceptions before. Okay,
not.
thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, that wasn't a part of the curated zoning for the Del Webb community. It was specifically to the LP Smart Side alternative within that development. So I would say the request for the porch down to 5 feet would be a new request that we haven't seen before. The advisement that we've given to Pulte is to give us an understanding of how these can still be utilized. My understanding, because this provision and regulation, when it was put in place, predates me, but my understanding, it was put in place to ensure that if porches were going to be included on a home, that they're providing a depth that is usable for the property. And to be able to meet some of our other design standards for garage protrusion and where you're measuring that protrusion from, the porch element needs to be usable and significant to be able to measure from that point. Otherwise, you're measuring from the front wall of the home. So that's where I understand that value to come from. So if they're going to be requesting an alternative to that or something lesser, we need to understand if the porch itself is still going to be usable, still going to be a significant element on the home. So that is something that they'll have to produce for us in that preliminary submittal if you feel like that's a reasonable route for them to go.
Yeah, and couple of things like this is Savannah Way extension, right? If they don't get that extension before the project starts, like how are they going to access the construction traffic? Like are they going to go through the riverfront community, and how exactly they are going to have that trucks and everything hauling all those things? Do we have a plan for that?
I think that's going to be a part of the coordination that we need to understand. So they need to, understanding what the ideal situation and timing is going to be with Savannah Way being constructed, but there's also that reasonable understanding that the development of their property and Savannah Way being constructed might be happening at the same time. So we need to understand how both those things can happen at the same time. So we don't have answers for that quite yet, but definitely questions we have going into those coordination efforts.
Because this couldn't really be built without Savannah Way coming through, correct?
Correct.
That's
They
Yeah, they
need
could be,
Savannah
yeah.
Way to come down to be able to access their development.
I would assume you'd want to start turning dirt next building season then.
That's correct. We would work, as Liz is mentioning, with staff to, if we get positive feedback, then petitioning for the city to start design and working with engineering and planning to make sure that it all aligns, which the timing might work out if everything, it sounds like it might start turning dirt this next 2026 summer time.
So I do see like there are no participants for the neighborhood meeting, right? So city park is just neighboring to that property. So generally, if these kind of scenarios like city engineering team or anyone from city generally goes to those neighboring meetings?
They had This is the map that they sent out to.
Yeah, so the park is like coming into
Park's
that.
here.
Yeah,
So these houses here and then these houses.
the
are all
park
down
is
here.
still in that area for like, in that particular neighboring meeting, like whatever the area covered for that, right? So generally in this, suppose there is a municipal building is going there, right? So if someone is building something else next to that, if they are inviting for the neighborhood meetings, city generally obligated to go there and just provide their inputs, or is like city generally don't even go for that, or just only for the individual neighbors to go to the neighborhood meetings? Just understanding, I mean, why it is not going, it's not my question. Like generally city go and provide the inputs. If they would have provided the inputs, they might have aligned that the access points, right? Probably that is what I'm coming after.
So are you talking about the neighborhood meetings for this development?
For this development, suppose for this development, when they have a neighborhood meeting, because there is some other project adjacent to that development is owned by city. So generally city go and provide the inputs in those scenarios. That's what my.
Yeah, so the way that, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of asking how are we coordinating
Exactly.
development for our park? I mean, we're not showing up to their neighborhood meetings. And that's by practice. We typically allow the developer to lead those meetings with the neighbors and speak on behalf of their development. Now, obviously, city staff are working with the developer. It's a city project to do the park. So, we are coordinating with that. The three of us are involved in different degrees with the park project, along with the Parks and Rec Department. We're all talking to each other. So that's, very much at the forefront of this project to make sure that we're coordinating that. In addition to coordinating the park, there's multiple factors on Savannah Way that's pushing for, how that road needs to be expanded. There's this project that's being proposed by Pulte. There's the park project that we are pursuing. And then to the south, there's High Point Vistas, which the first phase is already underway. And that's causing an initial kind of leg or portion of Savannah Way to come from County Road 61 heading northward. We met with High Point Vistas earlier this week. It sounds like they're preparing to submit and initiate their next phase of that development, which would really be everything else from what they've already begun all the way to the property line of what Pulte's proposing. And so that would initiate yet another segment of Savannah Way to go forward. So there's kind of a confluence of factors here coming together, and we'll be working to coordinate that. And that may drive Savannah Way to get to full completion maybe a little before we sort of anticipated, which is okay.
So the front side material, right, LP siding material, they were proposing a different material, right? So Pulte already constructed some other project in Chaska. Did they use the same kind of material there, or like just now they are asking for a different variance?
So what they're requesting with this development would be the same application we did in Del Webb or Edelwood.
Okay.
So what they did in Edelwood, in lieu of using LP Smart Side on the front elevations that's required, they proposed to use vinyl, stone, and then 2 applications of the vinyl in different ways. So it provided 3 different layers of articulation on the front with stone, and then 2 different siding options. So either lap siding, shakes, or board and batten.
So it's not new. Basically, they did use similar kind of whatever they're proposing.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. 2 things. One, I really like the variety of home types, especially the single level twin homes. It seems like a nice addition in terms of variety of home types in the area. And then 2, my comment was also going to be around the crosswalks or whatever coordination and alignment for Savannah Way. Maybe one of those can be a 4-way stop or something to force traffic to stop to allow people to cross. But then also as it relates to the development itself, just kind of a question, I don't know, maybe this comes at the next phase, but whether you'll have sidewalks or trails within the development across the 3 different sections, and then of course making sure that then those line up with the crossing areas across Savannah Way.
Sure, Chair and Commissioners, we will have sidewalks on both sides of the street, and then part of that open space we'll also have some sort of private trails as well to increase the interconnectivity, so folks don't just have to walk along the sidewalks along the street, but there'd be some interconnectivity as well and leading to Savannah Way, and we will continue to refine those locations with staff as Savannah Way gets designed.
Anyone else?
Look, it looks like a great development.
I agree.
It looks nice. A couple questions for you. So on the Holasek property, the 12 acres, does Pulte have interest in developing that at some point, or is that you guys are completely kind of turning that over to somebody else?
At this time, it's not a part of our contract. The seller wanted to retain it. We also aren't a developer who deals with higher intensive uses. We only do residential, so we wanted to focus on what we know, and that's the residential portion. So at the time, the seller is retaining that portion.
Okay. And then it was mentioned that these are all going to be owner occupied, so you're not going to allow rentals in there, or how's that going to be set up that way?
So all of our homes will be for sale. We will have a homeowners association that does allow up to around 30% of rentals. And so there will be technically rentals allowed, but all of the homes would be for sale.
So homeowners associations, do you see then like 4 associations here?
Typically, when we have multiple products and we're the developer of it, we'll have one master association, and then there's just cost sharing. It's easier in our perspective to have less boards because it helps reduce some of the cost and just having agreements in them.
Kind of like they're doing out at Chevelle.
Yeah, thank you, by the way. And this might be for staff, but along 212 there's eventually probably going to be an off-ramp coming in. So the only reason I bring that up is it'd be nice to have, once you put marketing materials together, to show a future off-ramp there, just so you don't have homeowners buying thinking that there'll never be an off-ramp there.
Sure.
Along with noise mitigation for that off-ramp. My personal opinion on the 5-foot porches to the 6-foot porches, you've got chairs that are usually about 3 feet deep now, 6 inches off the front of the house, so you're down to 18 inches in front. If they put a little ottoman in, all of a sudden you have no room to walk there. So I like the 6-foot better from that perspective. The LP Smart siding, I think the vinyl products look good for about 10 years, but then they really start to show their wear after that. I'm a big proponent of LP, just I've seen a lot of it and it looks good 15 years after it's been installed, so. Answered that one. The townhomes and the twin homes, would they be slabs or any basements involved with those?
Slabs.
They're all slabs.
Yeah. How, any prediction on what your cost might be or sale prices?
We do have some estimates. Obviously, this will change depending on when we get closer to development. We're predicting the townhomes to be those high 300s to low 400,000s, the twin homes, that mid 400,000 range, and then the single family 450 to the higher end of that 450, depending on options, closer to 500 probably.
And so on everything looks nice. What's so unique about this development? What makes Pulte, if you were selling yourself to this commission right now,
Sure.
what would you say is going to make this development stand out amongst the others?
I think one thing that makes Pulte unique is, one, we have a great brand for a reason. There's a lot of scrutiny that goes into every deal, not just an internal local level, but from an upper level, to make sure that we're upholding that and doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. We also understand there's a lot of housing needs in the Twin Cities in general, and we're providing 3 different product types that we hope to reach 3 different groups to hopefully help their dreams come together. And it's an amazing purchase to buy a home, and we want to be a part of that journey for folks.
Thank you. No more questions. Anyone else?
No, sir.
One thing just to offer up. So, because of the price points, we've sort of began some of this conversation with Pulte. I just want to share with you all some of the partnership that we're going to continue to explore. We've spurred some conversations with the Carver County CDA. And this Carver County CDA does a number of things, and one of them is the land trust trust program, Carver County Land Trust program. And we've got a number of properties in town that are part of that. And it's a very helpful tool to try to create long-term affordability for homes. And you know, so the way that that works is the CDA will come in and purchase a property. The land ownership rights end up getting severed from the building ownership rights. And so that land ends up going into the land trust long-term, and then the building is the thing that, you know, a person can come in and purchase. So by doing that, the price point to purchase is, you know, significantly lower compared to a neighboring property that looks the same, feels the same, but, you know, has that more typical arrangement that that we're used to. So there may be some opportunities because of the sort of products that are being delivered here with what Pulte's is proposing, that it could fit with the sort of you know, price point that the CDA is often looking for part of that program, and how the finances and economics need to work for that. So we're going to continue to try and pursue that that opportunity and see if you know, there's something there that we could at least get a few units into that program as part of the students.
Kind of exciting, especially being that close to an elementary school in the park also.
Right. Clover Ridge neighborhood is an example of a location where there's quite a number of properties that are in that program. Probably the most recent one that we've done with that, at least that had some attention to it, would have been the Ernst House project and the homes that are built next to that. All of those are in the land trust program. And in fact, I just heard today that a couple of those looks like they're going to be getting purchased here soon, and with some residents moving in. So.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? No? Any last remarks?
No, thank you, Chair and Commissioners.
Thank you, Keely. With that, I guess I'd look for a motion.
I'll make the motion to recommend approval to the city council, the approval of the concept plan for the Holasek property subject to the following 12
yep.
conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded and thirded. The only thing I'd add to that is I think everybody agrees that we need to really take a look at Savannah Way from a safety perspective with crossings. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Any other business that anybody has? No? Any reports?
I mean, in general, my question was like, generally, any community or any project comes next to the city considered as like a neighbor, or like a city generally treats as a city? That's what my whole concept, right? So suppose if there is a project coming next to my home, I would be like considered as a neighbor. So like that, if city is owning some project next to that existing coming project, whether city considered as a neighbor or like a city is still as a city entity. That is what I wanted to ask that question.
But the city would be involved in the planning process.
They would be involving from the start. That is the reason why they are already aware of it. They generally don't need to go. But is there any obligation generally city considered as a neighbor because they are owning that project? That distinction I just wanted to understand, you know, right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Like.
The practical outcome.
Yeah.
It ends up being kind of one and the same.
Yeah.
Anyone else, other business? No? Look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good.
Good job. All right.
Yeah.
Recording stopped.